so. You guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Should be good to go.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It's the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. This is a hybrid meeting, participation meeting. If you're dialing in on a phone, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. I'm going to bring the meeting to order with a roll call. Sound off if you're here.
Larry Keane, present.
Mark Corwin here.
Brian Murphy, present.
Brian Sullivan here.
JJ?
Grover Hensley here.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to start with the continued meetings. So we have 22-76, Joanna Dixon. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 45-foot 4 by 31-foot second-story addition over the existing first floor, which will be elevated and front stairs to provide access to the raised dwelling on the property located at 56 Hartford Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps, being parcel K10-15-14 and is located in R3 zoning district. We're moving this to 1011, right? Dick?
Did you do something, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, because two of your cases are continued to 10-11.
So I'm going to make
Oh,
a
you want
motion.
to, all right, you want to move it
Yeah,
back?
we're going to motion that we continue this to 1011 at 6:30. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye?
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Grover Hensley, aye.
Okay, now we got 22-77, Ellen Quinn and Terrence Watts. The petitioners are seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 10-foot by 22-foot addition on the right side of the existing dwelling on the property located at 18 Billings Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L10-10-03 and is located in the B3 zoning district. Gonna make a motion that we continue this meeting to 10/11/22 at 6:30 p.m. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Grover Hensley, aye.
Okay, now we have 22-82, Richard Clements. In accordance with 305-10.09 of the Marshfield Municipal Code, the petitioner is seeking an appeal of the building commissioner's opinion dated July 13th, 2022. If the pre-existing non-conforming use was abandoned on the property located at 16 Old Summer Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel F17-03-07C and is located in the R1 zoning district. I'm going to make a motion that we continue this to 9/27/22 at 6:30 p.m. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
So we're
Grover
taking,
Hensley, aye.
sorry, Grover. So we're taking things out of order slightly, and we're going to start with M. 22-88, Michael and Colby last. Sorry, Dick. Excuse me, Dick. In accordance with 305-10.09 of the Marshfield Municipal Code, the petitioners are seeking an appeal on the building commissioner's determination that a street determination is required for the demolition of the existing residential dwellings and construction of a single-family dwelling on the property located at 13 Brewster Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel J12-02-16, is located in the R3 zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, and I represent Michael and Colby Last. Michael and Colby purchased this property in early 2022, and they're proposing to demolish the existing residential structures and construct a new single-family dwelling on the property. To that end, they actually obtained an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission in June of this year. And as the chairman indicated, the question is whether they need to go through the street determination process for what is fundamentally the redevelopment of an existing lot with existing residential structures on it. I consulted with town council, and he told me that the appropriate avenue would be to bring the issue to the building commissioner, which I did. I submitted that request to Mr. Stewart in July and argued that street determination is only required for new construction under section 4057 of the town's subdivision control regulations. And I should add that based upon my research, I've not found an instance where the town ever required a street determination for the redevelopment of an existing lot with an existing structure, only for new lots and new construction, which makes sense since you need to assure that that new lot and that new structure would have safe and adequate passage over the street in order to develop that property. Mr. Stewart disagreed, and we appealed to the board. I'd suggest that the regulation itself is unambiguous. It's 405 section 7B, which states that a building permit not be issued by the building commissioner for new construction unless the lot has frontage on a street as defined by the Marshfield zoning bylaw and as provided in that regulation. This is an existing lot. It's been in existence for decades. In fact, it was laid out by a subdivision plan in 1922. It has frontage on Brewster Road. Brewster Road is unpaved, but presently provides adequate access, not only for this property, but I believe there are at least 5 other existing houses on Brewster Avenue that are served by this road. And as I mentioned, Brewster Road has provided access to this lot for decades. This lot has historically contained residential structures. We provided to you the assessor's records, which show at one point a single-family dwelling that was raised in the late 1980s, several cabins that have been used, a shed, and as well as a screen house. And I've got better copies of those assessor's records if you want to review those. Presently, there are 3 cabins and a shed on the property, which are shown on the proposed conditions plan, which we included in the package and which were submitted to the Conservation Commission. Those cabins are labeled as cottages by the surveyor. As I mentioned, this is not a new lot or new construction, and there should be no concern regarding the adequacy of Brewster Road to provide access for this existing lot. As I said, it's been used for decades for residential purposes. Not only has the regulation, or not only is the regulation unambiguous, but as I indicated, the town has only applied that regulation and required street determinations for new lots and new construction. And by way of example, no street determination was required for the redevelopment of 12 Brewster across the road or 39 Brewster down the street. In contrast, a street determination was required for the development of a new lot at the very end of Brewster Road and new construction. That's lot J12010. I don't have the street address. So it's a very narrow issue before the board. I'd respectfully suggest, and I've seen obviously the building commissioner's response as well as other comments, this has nothing whatsoever to do with abandonment of uses. That, as you well know, is a zoning concept that deals with non-conforming uses, and through the lapse of time or inaction, you can abandon a non-conforming use. This is a residential district. We're proposing a residential use. As a matter of law, you simply can't have an abandonment of an allowed use. And so I suggest that that issue is something of a red herring. Similarly, this has nothing to do with either building codes or sanitary codes. Whether a particular structure at a particular time was habitable under either the building or the sanitary code is simply not relevant. There's no question that there are residential structures on the property, and the property has been used for residential purposes for decades and can be used for residential purposes because that's an allowed use. This also has nothing to do with dimensional requirements under zoning. Whether the lot has sufficient area is really going to be a question for the building commissioner when we apply for a building permit. We have no doubt that the lot has sufficient lot area. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the Sears decision mentioned by the town planner in his comments relates to an entirely different set of circumstances and not really relevant to the issue of lot area in this particular case. I just do want to note that if ultimately the board decides that we need a street determination, we're not questioning the planning board's jurisdiction under the subdivision control law. We're not thumbing our nose at the planning board or at either the subdivision control law. This really is a very narrow issue, and we don't believe that this particular requirement applies to, as I said, existing lots with existing residential structures. So we respectfully ask that the board reverse the building commissioner's determination on this issue, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and as I indicated, if you want, I've got better copies of the assessor's records that reflect the existence of what used to be a single-family dwelling on there, the cabins on there, residential shed, as well as the screen house. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, do you want to speak on this, or? No? Okay, anything from the board?
No, sorry,
Oh,
I was just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much to add other than the written comments that I already gave and the determination that I gave in the response letter. I don't feel that, you know, if that structure was ever used as a residential dwelling, it was non-conforming in that regard, and because it was not suitable for dwelling up to sanitary or building code standards. And so in that regard, to use that non-conforming use, which has been abandoned for many, many years now, as a reason to, you know, avoid the street determination, I couldn't agree with it based on the verbiage of the bylaw.
okay. Anything from the board?
Well, I drove out here, you can clearly drive right to it. There doesn't seem to be any access issue that I could see. And the fact that you've had multiple houses and built right across the street and right along it, there's houses before it, after it, across the street from it, so. And there was clearly, to me, there was somebody living there at one point. You have the article there of the gentleman that was found there in distress. I think it's right there somewhere, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it shows somebody was living there at one point.
Yes.
And clearly you're taking a lot that's in a very nice neighborhood that's kind of been shoveled, if you will, and making it more conforming, more up to the community standards.
That's correct. The new project will conform in all respects to the zoning bylaws, and we have an order of conditions. So we're dramatically improving conditions out there.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Adam, this was built as a house?
There was a house originally on this lot.
Was there a septic system?
I think there was a septic tank. At one point, there was an application.
Cesspool or something?
Yes.
So it was built for human occupancy?
Yes, no,
So that makes the use conforming, right?
That's correct. It's a residential district, and you could, even if it was a vacant lot, you could construct a new single-family dwelling on it as a matter of right, as long as you complied with the zoning dimensional requirements.
Well, I am loath to start off my time on the zoning board disagreeing with the zoning enforcement officer and the building commissioner. I see that yesterday this was a house, and tomorrow it will be a house. It is a conforming use. I disagree with the characterization that there's an abandonment of a nonconformity. To me, it looks as though it's going to be improved. Again, it's a single-family home. It'll be a single-family home.
And there are existing cabins on it presently. So the house went away, but there are still the same cabins.
I saw the word
Yeah, there's-
cottage, but.
Yeah, well,
The assessors call them cabins, the surveyor called them cottages, but the assessor's
The
record
assessors-
is,
But they're structures intended for human occupancy.
and have been, that's correct.
That's a conforming use.
Yes.
If they were intended for renting out, they were, cabins for hunting, like a hunting lodge, you could argue, well, it's a business use, and then the business use is abandoned, so you're gonna lose the business use. But then you revert to the more restrictive use, which is residential.
Yes, the regulation that we're talking about is really about access, street determination. And there's no question that you access the lot over the existing road and it's adequate and safe. And so that's really what you're trying to protect by the street
And
determination
the neighbors were
process.
held to the standard where they were allowed to take their existing dwellings and improve them.
Correct.
And they did not have to comply with, I assume it's like subdivision control law in terms of bringing Brewster Street up to
Exactly.
subdivision standards. Yeah, I mean,
That's
that's a
right.
whole dog.
And as I said, we recognize that at the end of Brewster Road, there was a brand-new lot that was created that didn't exist. And it makes sense that it had to go through the street determination process in order to determine whether it had adequate access over its frontage. That's not the case with an existing lot with existing structures.
Yeah. To be clear, I feel conflicted disagreeing with our building commissioner because he's the subject matter expert. But from my perspective, I see it as a conforming use. And if you were to get a building permit to re-roof it, you wouldn't have to upgrade the street. If you were to get a building permit to upgrade the septic system, you wouldn't have to upgrade the street. And just carry that along. You're taking a single-family home, conforming use, you're improving a single-family home, a conforming use. To me, I don't see that you would have to meet subdivision standard for Brewster Road. And yeah, it's in a beautiful area of much more expensive homes. I'm sure the neighbors will be delighted to see your clients, whose names escape me now, the Lasts.
Michael and
The
Colby
Lasts vastly improve this property.
Yes.
Could I just speak to that real quick? I don't disagree actually with anything that you said, and I haven't. None of my determination actually had anything to do with the use. It was a non-conforming structure, which is the other part of the bylaw. So the bylaw is non-conforming use and non-conforming use of structure, or a non-conforming structure. And in this case, these are non-conforming structures that were abandoned, clearly, for a use as a residential dwelling. They don't conform to any sanitary or residential code for a residential dwelling. And so that use for those structures as a residential dwelling unit, it was non-conforming. It was abandoned, that structure, for well over 2 years. And this non-conforming structure is what I said was abandoned. The use is residential use, that's clear. It's a residential district, it's a residential property, it's a residential neighborhood, the use is definitely conforming. It's the structures that were non-conforming. So that's what was abandoned. That's what made the new construction of a single-family dwelling that conforms to our current codes, has a septic system, and everything else will require a street improvement under the bylaw. That was what my determination was. It wasn't that this would not be an improvement, that I'm against improving it, that I don't think that it's a valuable thing to add a nice residential dwelling here. But I do believe the planning board should have the street determination.
So if I might respond, the dimensional non-conformity of the structure is also not relevant. We're not seeking to maintain the existing non-conforming structures or extend them by special permit. Those structures are going to be raised, and what will be reconstructed is a new conforming dwelling.
Dimensionally conforming.
Correct. And conforming vis-a-vis use. So again, the notion of an abandonment of a non-conforming structure is not relevant. The only relevancy I respectfully suggest is whether for an existing lot with existing residential structures, you need to send us to the planning board for a street determination to determine the adequacy of Brewster Road. And I think we all agree that Brewster Road is adequate to serve the existing lot as it's done for the past decades.
Now, Andrew, when you say sanitary conditions, you mean by today's standards, correct?
I mean, by any standards. I
Yeah.
mean,
But this
I
dwelling,
mean, just the appeal alone submits as an exhibit this article. You know, man lay injured 2 weeks in frigid cabin, barely conscious, lying on the floor.
Unbearable
barely
living
coherent,
conditions. Yeah.
frostbite and hypothermia. I mean, this is not a place that was suitable for use as a dwelling.
but back in 1920, when this structure was built, even an outhouse would have been considered sanitary conditions. Not by today's standards, but back in 1920, when this residential structure was built.
Arguably, outhouses work better than a lot of current septic systems.
I've seen no records of when the structure was built or what its use was prior to this, this article and this instance, and this is what all the town records related to this property basically are related to this incident. And making this property basically, at the orders at that time where you need to improve this property, you need to make it safe and secure, you need to start work on it, and instead it was boarded up, abandoned, and left there.
So we submitted that article simply to demonstrate that someone was living there.
Living there.
I think you made the point that we don't know what the relevant building or sanitary codes were at the time, and I don't dispute that the conditions sounded horrible at the time this gentleman was living there. But again, that's not the issue. I should also note that the regulation doesn't talk about there being any requirement for a dwelling unit. It just speaks about new construction for purposes of the street determination. So I appreciate the building commissioner's concern for public safety. We don't disagree with that. In fact, we're trying to improve public safety by raising the existing cabins or cottages and constructing a new dwelling that conforms in all respects with current building and sanitary codes as well as Title V. Again, we're getting a little bit far afield of the purpose of this particular regulation, which was simply to assure adequate access to the properties.
Now, the card
JJ,
you-
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. The card you submitted, the assessor's card, I really can't read it. Do you have documentation?
I've got better copies, yes.
What-
Hopefully they're better copies.
All right, thank you.
I know the client's got an even better copy.
So when did the assessors say the structure was built?
Do you have a better copy?
Yeah, I mean,
Just down
typically,
in
if
this
you go
corner.
back, at some point,
Ah.
the street was subdivided, you said in, the 20s, the layout?
1922, this neighborhood was created by a number of camp lots.
Okay, and then at some point, it went from, the assessor's records would indicate it was vacant land, and then they're gonna pick up the following year when there's a structure on the property, and then they're gonna assess the structure. So the assessor's records would show when that structure was put there. But at a minimum, typically, if they miss it one year, they'll go back the following year and they'll pick it up, but it looks like date 0442
Yep.
on the upper left-hand corner. So arguably, and I don't know, I'm not a rocket scientist here, but it looks like it was constructed around 1942,
Thank you.
give or take.
Yeah, that was handwritten on this card, that's correct.
So,
Here's that's the older version, but
Yeah, I mean, looking at the photo there, it doesn't look like a brand-new house in 42, so.
No, and as I said, was raised in the late 80s, 88, I think.
Yeah.
I used to be on the board of assessors in Situate, so.
Again,
See, it
I
says
mean,
age 1930, give plus or minus.
Yeah.
right. So, and again, that's the problem here is we're talking about things, I think, unrelated to the very specific regulation that we're asking the board to interpret. You know, what is new construction? And what is the reasoning behind the street determination?
I think the reason we're doing that, though, is once the board is satisfied that it's a residential
Yes, sir.
structure from 1930, I think that would be enough to satisfy myself.
JJ, do you have anything?
No, I'm kind of just listening. I agree with what Bill is saying, and I understand Andrew's stance on it. Has the planning board met on this property yet, or do they have input on it?
There's no need for the planning board to meet because we respectfully suggest we don't need a street determination. And again, the building commissioner will review the construction plans to ensure that the proposed house complies in all respects with the state building code and the state sanitary code. So
I mean, the elephant in the room is that if you got to go in front of the planning board, it's going to add, $200,000 to the cost of the structure. Because they're going to make you build it out.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you're trying to avoid. I don't fault you for that. And there are 5 other houses on the street.
Now, your contention with the building commissioner is the fact that it's been abandoned, correct?
No, sir, I'm suggesting that there's been no abandonment of the use, but the
he is-
issue of abandonment is not really relevant to the issue
You're
that's
suggesting
presented.
it is, and therefore, that's the reason.
And I have a respectful
Now, I have a
disagreement.
question. Has the taxes been avoided, or has the taxes been paid all the way through?
I can't say, I can tell you, my clients have paid the taxes, and the taxes had to be brought current because they purchased the property in January. So the municipal lien certificate.
My experience, I was formerly on the Board of Assessors in Situate. They're going to continue to assess a property as residential. Even if there's a condemnation order, they'll continue to assess it as residential until someone files for an abatement. And property owner's not going to file for an abatement because they don't want to lose that residential
But
status.
if they're paying their taxes throughout, they're not abandoning the property.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yes, sir. So in order to convey the property in January, all of the back taxes, I believe, were paid, and the town issued a municipal lien certificate certifying to that. So as far as I know, all of the property taxes have been paid and will continue to be paid.
So do we have anything from the audience? Seeing that there isn't, is there anything else from the board?
I'm good.
JJ, you all set?
Brian, when were does anyone know when the other properties on that road were reconstructed or improved?
They're all on the
Has it been
same,
recent?
they're all on the same original building card, which says somewhere around the 1930s.
Yeah, there's a list right there, Grover, in there, that pretty much breaks it down.
So I think I provided you with the dates
did.
when 12 Brewster was
Oh, the
redeveloped
other
and
homes.
39 Brewster. So if you give me a moment.
2008,
Yeah, they're pretty
7
recent.
and 8,
Yes, recently.
they're right up there.
Okay,
Thank you.
so recent, okay, thank you.
All right, so do we have enough information? Are we ready to close?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion that we close 22-88, Michael and Colby Last, 13 Brewster Road. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Cole and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
JJ?
Grover Hensley, aye.
Do you guys want to deliberate on this? or- I think I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
JJ, you all set? To deliberate?
Yeah, good to go, thank you.
All right. Well, I think we know where you stand, Brian.
Yeah,
The only other thing I would add is, I did speak to Bob Galvin, and he did say that the street determination, he didn't believe had anything to do with this decision. So, that's his opinion, so. So I'm ready, so what do we, if we're
I
gonna
don't
do?
know that my vote even counts, so.
Yeah, why doesn't your vote count?
Because isn't it a three-person vote?
No, it's
Just
five.
Oh, okay.
Your vote does count. So,
Okay.
so do, I mean, I think I'll do it, if I do it in the affirmative to uphold, then we would vote nay if we were against it. Tony? Would I do this in the affirmative, or in the negative, if we're gonna uphold or deny?
Well, it depends which one you're gonna do. You kinda asked me both at the same time.
So if we disagree with the building inspector, what would we say?
You do a motion to vote to overturn the building commissioner's decision.
Okay. And I'll make a motion that we vote to overturn the building commissioner's decision. Do I have a second?
Larry
Second?
Keane,
Brian Sullivan, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
JJ?
Roe Manzia, aye.
Thank you very
you.
much. Good night. And thank you for your courtesy regarding scheduling.
Right, Steve, you have to announce that you're here. Steve Feeney, present.
Present.
Thank you.
What are we doing next? Are we back on track now?
All right, so now we're on to 2278. Kelly and William Sullivan.
Yes.
The petitioners are seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code
Amy, good to see you.
rebuild the existing 12 by 16 screen porch
Yes, I
to a
did.
20-foot by 20-foot two-story addition with
2
roof
years
deck,
ago.
a 14-foot by 16-foot single-story, three-season room, and a 22-foot by 8-foot entryway with the staircase to all floors, and a half-story attic on the property located at 140 Meadowview Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being K1202-01 and is located in the R3 zoning district. How you doing?
Good.
So you just have to sound off.
Sound off. Dick Rockwood. I've worked on the job for the Sullivans, doing the architectural work. This is Carly Tobias, works with me in the office. I told her how much fun zoning's meetings were, so she had to come in.
For the record, I do have a brother named Bill Sullivan, but
Yeah.
the Sullivans are of no relation to me. Just to get it out there.
All right, go ahead.
So we're here because the existing house is non-conforming on the left side, as you see it on the plan, and in the front, the 6.5. And so we're adding the addition as designated there on the right and on the rear. And we're adding it's a two-story house right now. We're gonna make it a 2.5-story house. We're adding the attic. And on part of the new addition will be a roof deck. And I think you have the architectural plans on this. That's the existing conditions right now. And those are the exterior elevations for the new part we're adding, the third floor, the attic floor, which will meet the 66% requirement.
Andrew, do you have anything?
Nope.
You guys have anything on the board?
Nope, seems pretty straightforward.
I agree.
Steve?
Yeah, no problems.
Anyone from the audience here for this? Anyone online? Grover, you have anything, or?
Nope, all set, thank you.
Okay. All right, so. Messily organized here. Andrew, do we have the 1 to 10 items that we agree with for the special permit?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Sorry. What mistakes?
It's all right.
While we're doing that, I have a question for
Yes.
Dick. They're using Field Street as their front and the abutting side as their backs, because otherwise, they're on, it's a Meadowview address, correct?
It's a Meadowview is their front.
Is their front,
Well, they have two fronts theoretically, each requiring a 15-foot setback.
then that addition off the back, is that a deck or is that part of the addition?
That addition off the back,
Which would
that
make it
pork chop
less,
shape,
which would make it less conforming.
well, I would pull out the situation that my right side, the 9.2, is my rear, because I have two fronts. I have a front on Field Street.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. You're using
Right.
Field Street as the front.
Right.
And,
Yes, okay,
Okay.
yes, that's what I'd be doing,
all right.
because I've done it on multiple jobs before. It's been approved by the board.
That's where I learned it.
Thank you. No, thank you.
So you want to go to the 1 to 10, Andrew? Thank you. Does the board find the following general conditions to be fulfilled? Numbers 1 through 10 on the special permit?
I do.
I do.
I do. Brian Murphy.
I do.
All right, thank you.
I got in trouble the last time I said that.
Steve?
I do as well.
All right, so I'm going to motion that we close. What number are you? 2278 Kelly and William Sullivan, 140 Meadowview Street. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grove Hensey, aye.
Okay, and, what's that? The conditions are, all building permit, yep. Thanks you for checking.
It's not in the floodplain, right?
No, high and dry.
Andrew's thing said, yeah. So, all right, so I'll move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions, building permit, site plan, and as-built, and certificate of occupancy, to alter, extend, and non-conform a residential structure based on a finding that the applicant has demonstrated they meet all the requirements of section 10.12 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grove Hensey, aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Save these.
All right, now we're on to 2279, BGHM Incorporated. Are they here? Oh.
Yeah.
He was here earlier. Do you want to move it?
Who's that?
What's that?
Green Harbor? I'm here for that
Oh,
as well.
okay.
I don't know where he went, but I can handle it. I'm Tom Pazerski from Maryland.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so the applicant, BGHM Incorporated, is seeking a special permit pursuant to Marshfield Municipal Code 305-1010 special permit and 305-1302 Coastal Wetland District for maintenance dredging of the SHM Green Harbor Marina, consistent with the authorizations of the Marshfield Conservation Commission, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental located at 239 Dyke Road, identified on the assessor's maps as M06-08-05, located in the B4 waterfront coastal wetlands district, and such other further relief pursuant to the Marshfield Municipal Code is necessary.
Sorry, folks.
Steve Gard has
My
entered the
apologies.
room.
Yes.
Hi, folks, I'm Tom. Oh,
You already read
Go
the,
ahead, yeah.
okay,
Okay, thank
you
you.
read the notice? Okay.
Just-
Yep. Okay,
My
good.
name's Tom Pazurski. I'm the Marine Service Division Director for Merrill Engineers out of Plymouth. And we have, as everybody knows, Steve Gard here. This is basically a maintenance dredge project. It involves 190,000 square feet of footprint, which you can see on the coordinates there, that are labeled A through K, et cetera. It lines up specifically with the Federal Navigation Channel, and we've been working very closely with the town of Mike DeMayo on their dredge project to make sure everything is seamlessly aligned. It's just a standard maintenance dredge. It's about 6,150 cubic yards, and we are seeking off-site disposal to Cape Cod Disposal Site.
Ocean disposal, not off-site land.
Ocean
disposal.
disposal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have in
Sorry about
place,
that.
we have in, we have in place already Concom approval, Chapter 91, Army Corps.
Chapter 91's well in way.
Yep.
Army Corps is well in the way. We're through the administrative phase right now, and we're just waiting for the sampling and analysis plan, which then tells us where we have to get samples. They'll test it, and then we'll get approved from the Corps for ocean disposal, and then we'll take it from there.
And we're probably anywhere from 18 months out for even starting the project,
Yeah,
right?
it'll be about that, because we
12
can
to
get
eight-
bids.
minimum, 12 to
Yeah,
18
and
months
on-
before
once,
we can get
um,
everything scheduled.
Once the Corps issues their permit, then the water quality folks will fall in line, because we don't have anything landside, so it's really the Corps' jurisdiction, the whole
Yep.
Valley
There'll be no landside operation, right? Everything's from the barge, and the
Correct.
tugboat, and the dredge machine will be all on waterborne.
And it's really a good thing for the harbor, because it increases the depth of the water column, gets rid of prop wash, and gives you a healthier water column.
Andrew, you have anything?
Nothing further to add than I already submitted.
Okay. Anything from the board?
Just to be clear, so everyone understands, this is going on a barge and going out to sea. It's not gonna be disposed on land.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Correct.
How long will the project take?
It'd probably take about 2 weeks. Generally about 2 weeks is about the
That's-
average they
yep,
take.
couple
We got a
weeks.
very short window to do it. It's usually in the off-season, wintertime.
That-
It's
that-
before the spawning of, winter flounder and things like that typically, so it's a very short window, 2, maybe 3 weeks, but that's about it.
Which is heavily controlled by the Chapter 91 and the Army Corps license, and when we can start and finish. And we have to provide them with a pre-construction, a pre-work notification. And so if the board sees fit to grant the special permit, they can condition it on us, obviously following the guidelines or the requirements of the various other permits necessary for the
Yeah,
dredge.
just so the public knows, this board is like minimal in this. There's
Yes.
a lot more extensive of a application process.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, God,
Yes.
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 It's,
Yeah.
The least of your problems.
Yes, yes.
yeah, the feds run the show, and the Corps bounces this off the EPA, then they'll come back with a determination.
Yeah.
Where we can dispose of it out in the ocean, and we are requesting Cape Cod Disposal Site, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't go there, then it'll be mass bay disposal.
The only reason that we're really with the ZBA jurisdiction is that the zoning map describes the coastal wetland district by way of a line on the map, which we are going to be dredging outside of that line. But if you read the definition of the coastal wetlands district as opposed to how it's drawn on the zoning map, there is some interpretation that it covers land under a water body or substrate. So, and having had those discussions with Andrew, we thought it was best to, just come before you, get the permit or request the permit, and make sure that we've got all of the things buttoned up, so there's no, because once you get these permits in place and you get a unit ready to go, tens of thousands of dollars are spent. We don't want to find out, hey, we should have gotten this extra permit. So you're correct in characterizing this as, not to minimize your role today, but you know, it is a pretty small role that the ZBA plays for this issue because it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that the public realizes that they know it, that.
Correct.
It's
basically a dot in your eyes
highly
across.
regulated.
Yeah.
Testing done ahead of time, Corps reviews it with their chemists,
Yeah.
goes up to check with the EPA, then they come back and say, okay, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come back and say, we want biological testing, we do that, and then they make the determination, then we get the permit, we get the dredge contractor, and then we go through the pre-construction notifications, pre-construction meetings. If stakes up, you know, we need to mark things, we'll mark it, and then he'll get his dredge disposal coordinates, and then he's off and running, and
Right.
he has to report everything that's being taken out, where it's being disposed for, is well accounted for. And then we have to do a post-dredge survey, and then I've got to certify it.
Tom, your application mentions that you're looking for landside disposal in addition to oceanside. Is that no longer the case?
That is correct.
That's
no longer
correct.
the case.
That's correct, sir.
We were considering that early on in the process when the town showed an interest in having the cuttings go to a place for some sort of beach nourishment or something like that. Not feasible in this case. We just felt that it was just not feasible for this particular operation.
Yeah, and it becomes a much more complex process when a
Way
private entity wants to do a landside disposal.
Yeah.
It's a dewatering area that gets pre-tested, journey tested. Disposal site needs pre-testing and long-term monitoring. And if it's basically not gonna be found suitable for beach nourishment, it's really not a practical alternative.
Yeah, Hummerock could use the sand, but,
Yeah,
There's no
unfortunately, a
sand.
lot of these aren't, yeah, I know, but
all mud.
I'm sure they could.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the testing doesn't bear that.
yeah, I hear you.
The public can be rest assured that all of the testing that is done, the biological testing, is, the main purpose is to determine where they're going to tell us to put the cuttings, where it's going to go in the ocean.
Sure.
They have different places that they put it, so it's for that reason that we spend so much money and time on determining the consistency of the substrate.
And all these labs that do the testing, it's first the chemical testing.
Yeah.
Every lab is certified by the Corps, so you can't go hire any willy-nilly lab. They have to follow the EPA Green Book and the testing procedures established by the EPA.
Thank you.
But thank you for pointing that out, because we did mention that in the
Yeah, thank you.
application early on, that it was considered, but not any longer.
Anything else from the board?
I am good.
Anything from the audience on this? Seeing that there isn't, so what do we have to do here? So, Andrew, can you pull up the standard for special permit under 1012? I think we have 1 to 6.
It is 1 to 6.
Yeah. I want to put it up there so you guys can all agree to it.
You want the Form 2C, Brian, is that what you're looking
Oh,
for?
no,
This
Andrew will
one.
pull it up there just so I
Okay.
can.
Got it.
So does the board find the following general conditions 1 through 6 to be fulfilled?
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I do.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
Grover?
Great.
All right, and then also, Andrew, can you pull up 13.02? 1 to 3? There they are, so health and safety occupants, we agree that these things have taken place. Everyone agree with 1 to 3?
I agree.
I
Well,
do.
you don't have to agree with 1 and 3, it just details, this article just details that you.
The explanation of the coastal wetlands?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and Andrew, we don't have any conditions for dredging, right? Like we have for the docks?
No, you only, like I said in the comments, the only condition is they've got to apply for a floodplain permit just so that we can keep track of everything across conservation and zoning and everybody else.
Okay.
makes my job to signing the municipal zoning certificate very easy, Tom.
Yep.
All right.
I do have a question, maybe through Andrew, and I know we've talked about this, is that there's been some suggestion that in addition to this permit, that we would need an earth removal permit from the
But
Board of
that's only if
Selectmen.
you're dumping out of town, which you're not, right?
No.
No,
taking it out to sea.
I looked at, I've done those before, and I went through the
Dredging's
criteria.
excluded from that unless it's going, like, say you were bringing it down to a sand and gravel or
No,
something.
no. Would
Then
you
it would
agree
be
with that,
included.
Andrew?
I haven't heard that one yet, but.
Okay, okay.
I can tell you it's excluded. Dredging's excluded.
That was my
Unless it comes
interpretation.
off,
Yeah.
unless it
Don't
comes,
introduce new ideas, Steve.
Listen, I just don't want to miss anything, but I had the same, I came to the same conclusion as well. Having done the earth removal permits before, they are completely off base to what we're doing here.
right, but it says right in there that dredging is excluded in the earth,
Thank you.
as long as it's going
For
out.
public entities, it says it's excluded for public entities, my question.
Right, but if you bring it on shore, then you,
Yes.
and out of town. So if you put it
Absolutely.
on the beach, you're still excluded.
Okay.
All right, so do I have a second? I'm gonna move that we close 2279 BGHM, 239 Dyke Road. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Robert Hemsley, aye.
And we'll move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions, Andrew's floodplain permit, correct?
Yep.
And so I'm assuming they'll need the as-built and all that stuff? No? Good. All right. They'll have it, yeah. And
That's the beauty of the floodplain permit. Bill Grafton will upload all that stuff there, so if you guys ever needed to look, make sure that they conform with your requirements, it would all be there in the floodplain permit. in
Okay.
perpetuity.
awesome. Do
Thank
you know
you.
what the date on the plan is, since I can't see it?
Yeah, I think I have the plan, yeah.
August 2nd, 2020.
All right, to perform maintenance dredging as shown on the plan dated August 2nd, 2022?
21.
Oh, 21. And based on the finding that the applicant has not demonstrated that it meets the requirements of section, no, sorry. Based on the finding that the applicant has demonstrated it meets all requirements in section 1010 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Robert Hemsley, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thanks,
Have a great
folks.
night.
All right, now we have Vincent, how do you pronounce your? Veals. Vincent Veals, the 140, 2280. Petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to enclose and expand the existing 9'7" by 16-foot three-season room, 9'7" by 20-foot, and add a 9'7" by 20-foot second story, and a 9'7" by 10-foot deck on the side of the property located at 140 Atwell Circle, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being parcel L04-01-23 and is located in the R2 zoning district. Go ahead.
So we currently have a three-season room on the back, and in order to expand our kitchen area, we want to include it. Need to be expanded about 3 foot on the side in order to match all those walls. And on top of that current three-season room, we have a deck which we don't use. So in order to think ahead for the kids when they go to grow up, we want to make it a 2-story and expand the bedroom situation for them. That's about it. As listed on the assessor plan, it's going to be on a, yes, that thing. It's going to be under foundations, and this has you so here.
Any questions? Andrew?
No, nothing more than my comments, you know.
Okay.
Non-conforming house, non-conforming lot. They're gonna need a building permit, obviously. They'll need a certified as-built after it's complete and a certificate of occupancy. They're also gonna need some more detailed architectural and framing, plans.
Right.
Once we get closer. But they can come in and talk to me about that if they need clarification.
Okay. Anyone from the board?
Oh, I'm good with this.
I've got nothing.
Pretty straightforward. All right, so, Andrew, can you put up the special permit 1 to 10? Brian can agree with it. Okay, does the board find all of the following general conditions to be fulfilled?
Yes, I'm good.
Mark Corwin, I'm good.
Brian Murphy, okay?
Yes.
JJ?
All set? Yep, good to go.
All right. Did I close this? I didn't close it. I didn't close it.
Close it.
No, I didn't. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we close 22-80 Vincent Veals, 140 Atwell Circle. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Rob Ramsey, aye.
All right, any discussion?
I am good.
All right. So make a motion that I get confused.
I'll second
Second.
that. You're in good company, bro.
Yeah. So I move that the board vote to grant the special request for a special permit, subject to the conditions, a building permit, a certified as-built site plan, and a certificate of occupancy, to alter, extend a non-conforming residential structure based on a finding that the applicant has demonstrated that he or she meets the requirements of section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Rob Ramsey, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, of 22-81, George Sarney. (17 West Street). You in the, you online? All right, I'm gonna read it in. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to raise the existing non-conforming single-structure dwelling and construct a new 40-foot by 30-foot dwelling with an 8-foot farmer's porch on the front of the side of the property located at 17 West Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being parcel M05-12-05, located in the R3 zoning district. You hear it?
Yes, I am.
Just name and,
Rick Savant with Stenbeck and Taylor. I prepared this plan and did the survey for the Sarnies. Yes, this is a raise and rebuild project. We have an existing house down there, of course, on West Street. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but it's an old camp that they'd like to demolish and build a new home on, a flood-compliant home. The proposed house is more conforming than the existing. It improves on the front and rear and both sides, all the setbacks. Also, it'll be elevated, compliance with the AE zone that it's in, flood vents and so forth. The new building is 1,446 square feet, which gives it a 30% building coverage on the lot. We have been through conservation and we've got our approvals there. And we're just here tonight for that special permit for modification of this existing non-conforming property. So that's essentially what we're hoping to do.
Okay. Andrew, you have anything on this? Other than your comments?
Nope, just that they are gonna need a separate demolition permit and a separate building permit. And then, that's about it, but Rick generally knows what we need to
Okay.
get done with the structures.
Anything from the board?
No, this looks pretty straightforward to me.
Yep, nothing from me.
Anything from the audience? Online? All right. Make a motion that we close 2281 George Sarney, 17 West Street. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Cole and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
All right, so,
Excellent. Thank you very much.
yeah, I'll make I just closed it. I'll make a motion that we accept, like, 2281 George Sarney, 17 West Street. Did I just do that? I just closed it, right? With the following conditions. This will require a separate demolition permit for removal of a structure from the flood zone, a separate building permit for the new construction, a full elevation certificate proposed during construction final, a non-conversion agreement, a certified as-built plan, and a certificate of occupancy. And Andrew, thank you. Does everyone agree with 1-2 up there?
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So all those in favor of accepting 2281 George Sarney, 17 West Street with those conditions? I make a motion that we accept it, of course. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Cole and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grover Hensey, aye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, so now we have 2283 Beth Mahoney. Uh, 2283 Beth Mahoney, the petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to raise the existing 24 by 22 dwelling and construct a new 28-foot by 40-foot dwelling and a variance in accordance with 305-10.11 for relief from 305-602 table dimension density regulations to allow encroachments into the side and front setbacks of the property located at 26 Island Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being parcel N06-06-60, and is located in the R3 zoning district. Name and for the record?
Sure, my name is Jeff Metcalf. I'm the architect on the project, and with me is Brad Holmes. He's the environmental consultant. Okay. The owner would have liked to have been here this evening. Unfortunately, this afternoon she was tested positive for COVID, so she thought she'd stay home.
All right.
All right.
Thank her for
Good
that.
call.
I'm here.
Oh, she's online.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so go ahead.
So the owner is Beth Mahoney, and she did want me to pass along that the Mahoney family has been coming to Marshfield over the last 50 years. There are 4 generations of relatives in Boston, and she decided to sell her house in Boston and move to Marshfield because she loves the area, and the kids grew up on Fieldston Beach, and she has extended family that lives here as well. So she's pretty excited about being here she's owned the house for 11 years. And the house itself is, was built in 1940. It's a single-story cottage. The house itself is in pretty rough shape, rotted sills, crawl space, and doesn't appear to go below 4 feet. So that's the reasoning for raising it. Be a fairly costly to renovate. Last week, Brad, do you want to explain? We went to Conservation Commission.
Sure. So we presented to the Conservation Commission last week the proposal to reconstruct the house on a new FEMA-compliant foundation. The house is larger in size and includes a deck off the rear. To account for that increase in size, as far as conservation goes, we're going to be doing an extensive mitigation planting project in the back. We did get Conservation Commission approval last week so that we can let this board know that we do have order of conditions, which I picked up today. So we have gone through the conservation process. There's the proposed dwelling outlined with the proposed deck on the rear of the house. It's generally within the existing footprint, but Jeff can
Yeah, and
better describe.
And as you all know, this neighborhood, this is what used to be there, was a bunch of little cottages like this, and over time, you know, as families grew, then the houses grew some. So the site to the left, we've been told, and I have pictures here, I don't know if you'd like to see them, but we put some pictures in the packages. But this is the, Mr. Chair, if you want to see these. Sure. The first one is of the house itself, 26 Island Street. And the one after that is the site to the left. These are all different properties. Okay. So it's just one package. But the first one is 26 Island Street. The second one is the property to the left, which is all overgrown, and we've been told is not buildable. And on the right side is 24 Island Street, which actually used to be the twin of the parcel that we're talking about now. And then over time have made the change to their property as well. So we're here to talk about the special permit because we're slightly under 10,000 square feet, and the new dwelling will have setbacks on the left side of 8 feet and on the right side of 8 feet, and the front yard will remain about the same. The first the front setback currently is 9.6, but we're going to move it back to 10, and the existing now is more like 10 feet on the left side and 15 feet on the right side, and we're looking to change that to 8 feet on the two sides. We also, in the packages that you have there, when walking the neighborhood, there are several other houses in similar situation where something was built new. And obviously, it appears the variances were requested because there's clearly not 30 feet between them, and those are in the packages there as well. So, I think that's it for the most part. If there are any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I'd like to hear anybody from the audience.
Yeah. So Andrew, do you have anything? Other than your, needs the floodplain? Yeah. So the floodplain and the, obviously, other items would be conditioned. Okay, anything from?
We've already filed for a floodplain permit, so we've been in contact with Brad on this one for a little bit now.
Okay. Anyone from the audience? Seeing that there's none.
Did you read Greg's comments?
Oh, I didn't read them in. You gave me those. you have them? I buried them in here somewhere.
Right here.
All right, so it says the planning department is not in favor of the requested variance. The side yard setbacks in the R3 district were created due to the destruction of the many homes that were built to close each of the, were built too close each of during the Brant Rock Fire in 1941.
May I have one piece that I think Jeff, you can confirm, the proposed structure is actually further away than the existing when you take into account the deck. The deck on the existing structure, I think, is closer to that property line than the proposed house and deck when you look at the finished proposal.
Andrew, does an unenclosed or uncovered deck count toward the building footprint?
It's not, no, it's not considered building area.
Thank you.
It counts against open space, but of the lot, but it's not building area.
Brian, I'm disinclined to allow an encroachment where none exists. I can see extending a pre-existing non-conforming setback encroachment, but to allow a new one where there isn't one, I think is not a good idea. You know, we all recall the fire that happened in 2012
Down in Hummerock.
in Hummerock. And I was talking to an acquaintance of mine who was on the fire department at the time, and he said if it went to the next house, they were gonna have to sacrifice a house to stop it because of what was mentioned in the earlier comments.
Can you go back to the existing, Andrew? So you currently have 15.5 on this side?
Yes. And also keep in mind, if you will, on the left property, there isn't a building there, and we've been told that that property isn't buildable.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
Until the house goes up. My realtor told me it would never be built on.
All right, good. Can you go back, Andrew, to the existing and then? So it looks like existing you have, that 15, is it 15.6? Oh, 10 feet.
15.5.
Right.
15 and a half feet.
15 and a half feet, and you have 10 on the other side, right?
Yeah, and the front is about the same because it's 9.6 versus 10.
Right.
So it's essentially the same.
So can you fit in with the 10 and the 9.6 and the 15 on the other side, because that's conforming currently? I mean, can you redraw the structure somehow to work within that? Within the actual envelope that exists for you?
The 10 and the 15?
Yeah.
It's pretty much been consistent that you have the ability of rebuilding on the footprint you have without.
Yeah, I mean, you can build fit on the, because
With what's there.
you're conforming on this side. You can be the 9, whatever, from the front.
Mhm.
You can have the 15 feet to the left. You can only pick up 6 inches there, 5 inches. And then you can have 10 feet over there where it's 13. Only 13?
I think that's a reference to the.
Oh, the fence. But
To the
what is the
fence, yeah.
actual setback?
It's
Yeah, you're allowed to be 10 feet.
Right, on this, you've got right now you've got 10 feet on this side to the side of the house, right?
Right.
So that's a nonconformity. That nonconformity can be extended via special permit if the board so desired.
Right,
So-
but they have to hold the 10 feet.
No, that can be extended closer to
2
the
feet,
lot
eight.
line under special permit under Palalta.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we're looking to
But
extend
if
that
you
by
go
2 feet.
beyond- If you go closer than 5 feet to any lot line, that's when you get into fire-resistant code requirements under the building code for a rated assembly on that wall. But as far as they already have a nonconformity on that side, they can extend it,
Right.
as long as the board decides that's desirable. One of the arguments that they would have is that this lot, probably, based on what I saw there, it's got a lot of wetlands and it would be a tough one to work with, but, the board could extend their nonconformity on that side via special permit. So they would have room to move it this way under special permit without, and then they can make a modification so that they stay conforming on this side.
With the 15 feet, yeah.
That's what legally you have the right to do under a special permit with extending the existing nonconformity, and
It's a
then
new
that's
law.
what the variance would be, is
Well,
giving
so
a
we just
new
got one.
nonconformity.
Okay,
I'm disinclined to allow the variance. I'd be inclined to favorably act on the special permit, personally. I don't see that they meet the standard for the granting of a variance, and I don't think it's a good idea to allow encroachments, especially in this area where there are none.
oh, so we're saying you'll have to hold the 15 feet, but on the other side, that's special permit. It's not a variance anymore.
Yeah, again, that could be extended.
Okay. So is that something you guys could work out and come
And we're
back?
here for a special permit, would that fall under one?
You have both. You're here for a variance and a special permit.
Okay.
But so we're asking, can you design the house to fall within what you're allowed with the special permit?
So the 10
Meaning you
10
could encroach on the right side, well, as I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Do 10 feet?
Yeah, I mean, you can move, as Andrew's saying,
As close
that's
as-
special permit still.
You'll have to come back and show us.
Yes, you'd have to come back with a new drawing. You just go
Okay.
back and makes this drawing so it fits within where we don't have to give the variance and hold the 15 feet on the other side, because that's R3. You can have the 10 in the front because you already have it. You got 9.6.
Even with the variance on that side, where are you gonna put your driveway? The car cutting
Yeah,
that down to 8 feet.
Yeah, you park under the
dwelling.
Because we're raising it up.
Yeah, the driveway on the right side disappears.
10 and 15.
Yep, there you go.
Well, Andrew's saying you can go more than 10. You'd have to talk to him,
Okay.
under the special permit. So do you want to come back with we can continue and you can resubmit?
Sure. Yep, we can do that.
Well,
Do-
it seems to be re-advertised for its different dimensions, setbacks. No?
All right?
Okay.
Sound
Yes.
good?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, how long do you need? Well, when do we have another opening? 13th, 11th?
The 27th, I think, we have like 4.
Oh, there's only 6, well, we moved 3 to the 11th.
Yeah.
Do you mind going to October 11th?
11th?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we continue this meeting to October 11th. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Wall and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Steve Feeney, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Brad, if you want to schedule a meeting with me, we can go over what we were discussing.
Yeah, you guys can.
Sure, thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, so I'm going to skip 2284 and go to 2285. Amanda and Sidon Davis. There. The petitioners are seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1109 of the Municipal Code, Marshfield Municipal Code, to reestablish an accessory apartment within the existing dwelling on the property located at 78 Earl Door Circle, which is further identified on the assessor's map as being on parcel D1402-12, is located in the R1 zoning district. Name and address for the record.
Sidon Davis. We just purchased 78 Earl Door Circle in Marshfield.
Thank you.
So we're here to reapply for the special permit that was approved in May of this year for Jason Lichetti, with a condition of an updated septic for a 5-bedroom plan. And within the submission, we provided a draft of what that 5-bedroom septic plan would look like, and we're working on getting it finalized and updated to be able to submit to the Board of Health for both permitting and then doing the actual work to get the new system installed.
Okay. So you're just looking to alter the plan that we gave him because you've come up with a 5-bedroom septic system?
Yep, that, and because we purchased the house, we had to reapply to reestablish the permit that was
Right.
approved in May.
It was already approved.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, you have anything with this, other than your statement?
Yeah, just again, we should have a floor plan that shows the new fixture installations, and we really should have approval from the Board of Health on the septic before approving this. But like we said last time, it's up to the board if you want to approve it and add a condition.
Well, this has already been approved. It's a continuance. It's the year, because the ownership changed.
Yeah, it was approved with the condition that the Board of Health approved the septic.
Right.
And then it changed ownership, so if you're gonna approve it, you should approve it with the same conditions that the Board of Health approved the septic first.
Right, but, so he's just, but we already approved the unit, right?
With the condition that they get approval by the Board of
Septic
Health.
system upgrade, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we would be
So,
pursuing.
This is really just a continuance.
I guess the first threshold is he's got to meet Title V, so he's got to have a septic system to service the unit.
Right.
And then the second thing, he's got to submit to the building commissioner architectural plans or, scaled plans.
Well, no, this is a
showing the-
continuance, so this is so if you transfer a home that has a unit in it, you have to reapply.
Even though the unit already exists?
At that, and they have to do them annually, right? It's just a formality. It's just a formality.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah. So.
My ignorance is showing.
Can I ask if, does the unit exist currently? Is there an actual unit that's there now that we would be approving? Or is it a future addition?
Well, we already approved it, JJ, so.
For the previous owner.
The previous owner, all we're doing is when you transfer, so annually, these people have to re-up their units. So when you make a transfer, you also have to re-up, and he's also going for adding that fifth, he's adding the fifth bedroom so the septic can handle it, so that means instead of being the 3-bedroom with the apartment, it would become a 4-bedroom with an apartment.
I understand. Yeah.
So do we have any other questions?
Comments from the public?
Any comments from the public? All right, so I'll make a motion that we close 2285 Amanda and Sidon Davis, 378 Earl Door Circle. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Wall, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Robert Hensy, aye.
So I would say the condition would be they have to get the plan approved and installed with the septic system before we would allow the 5th unit to be, you'd have to produce that to us.
Sure.
Okay, does that make sense, Nancy?
Well, they also need a building permit just to even alter the space, you know, because it's unfinished, or at least it's supposedly unfinished at this point, so.
Okay.
The space isn't being altered, it's already finished above the garage, all the walls are up, the electric's done, I don't know what would be altering aside from putting in.
Saddam, was that done pursuant to a building permit?
It was done when we purchased the house, it was already done, so I don't.
Was that existing, Andrew? Is it?
No, it was supposed to be unfinished space according to the last building permit.
So when you bought the house, did you look at the building jacket to see if permits were pulled for the work that was done?
We saw that permits were pulled they put a bathroom above the garage. The plumbing permit was done for that.
But you said electrical work was done as well. That's apparently uninspected.
To my knowledge, I don't.
You may
know.
want to meet with the building commissioner to get that resolved.
Okay.
So Andrew, we'll just add that any permits that are open or needed, they'll see you for.
And again, this is kind of why I was saying there should be a floor plan, because as we understood it, that was an open space, just, it has like, and there was a bathroom somewhere on the second floor there, but it wasn't finished as an apartment, you know, with the, like, dwelling unit facilities. So we don't know what's, you know, how it's laid out, all that kind of stuff. We know where it's gonna be, but we don't know how it's laid out, if there were upgrades.
When Jason
if they
got
have
it?
to make a room, if they're making a kitchen.
Okay. All right, so we can condition it to have that, we said that installation of the septic system and that obviously closed out Title V.
Yeah.
And then also to have any building permits that are opened or need to be applied, you have to get those too, would be a condition of getting the apartment.
Okay.
So Andrew, do we can you put up the 1009 so we can agree to 1 to 10 on that?
Andrew, can I just chime in? Is this a permit that you would have an issue with issuing with this accessory apartment? I understand that it's a continuance, but sounds like there's some unknowns here.
I don't understand how to issue, like, issuing it. Like, if they meet all the requirements and the ZBA approves them as an accessory apartment, then yeah, I would issue a building permit for them to have, you know, to fit up the area as an accessory apartment, as long as the septic system is approved for a 5-bedroom septic, you know? Right now, that's not what it's approved for. And that's the concern of the Board of Health, is that there's a bedroom there that's not approved, that the house doesn't meet the current requirements for the septic system.
So we're conditioning the permit be issued after the septic system Title V requirements have been made. That's part of the permit. Okay, so does everyone agree to 1 to 10 here?
Yes, I agree.
I do.
I agree.
I do.
Steve?
I do.
So now after all these interruptions. So why did I motion to close? Oh, buddy. So I motioned to close, right?
We already did
We
that.
closed, and now I'm motioning to accept this based on those conditions that I just stated.
We just go with the conditions one more time.
The conditions?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure I have it.
So, Title V, Board of Health Title V approval for a 5-bedroom septic system, completed. And then any outstanding or necessary permits needed. So I would move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit to add an accessory apartment subject to the conditions to alter and extend non-conforming residential structure based on a finding that the applicant has demonstrated they meet the section 1109 of the bylaw. Do we have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Mark Owen.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Or Ramsey, aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
What?
Gentlemen.
Just had a quick question. You skipped 2284.
I did.
Okay.
I said I was skipping it.
Oh.
I'm moving, yeah, I'm gonna get to you.
Okay.
All right. So I have 2286 Mariners Lane LLC. The petitioner is seeking a site plan approval in accordance with 305-12.02 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 13,000 square foot day care preschool on 2.451 acre vacant lot property located in the intersection of Proprietors Drive and Commerce Way, which is further identified for the assessor's maps as being parcel E09-01-66 and is located in the I-1 zoning district. Are they there?
He was out there.
Is anyone?
I think I did.
You bored him to death.
Exactly. We painfully pained him to death. Can you identify yourself?
Yes,
sir?
Roy Catagnani, president of Conserve Group, I represent the architecture and the construction portion of this.
Okay,
I'm not an architect, but I employ them.
okay.
I'm Bob Rigo with Riverhawk Environmental, with a civil engineer for the project.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this project.
I can barely hear you here.
Sure, sorry.
That
I'll
mic doesn't
try-
make a difference.
Try my best. Tell me if
I
I
just-
fade off. I tend to do that a little bit, so please let me know. Again, Bob Rigo with Riverhawk Environmental, with the civil engineers, and we're designing this site. It's going to be a daycare and a preschool. It's a property located at the corner of Proprietors Drive and Commerce Way. It's in an industrial zoned portion of Marshfield. As you can see by the plan that's up on the screen, the site is kind of a hill up along Commerce Way, but it slopes steeply back towards the west as you go down, I believe, yeah, towards the north, I'm sorry, down Proprietors Drive. It's about 8% slope. It's kind of consistent with the existing roadway, Proprietors Drive, which runs up along the side of the site. The building we're proposing is a 3,100 square foot, plus or minus footprint building. It'll serve 120 students and 25 staff. This particular facility has been built, exact same facility was built recently in Plymouth and has been operated by the same proponent for the project. Due to the grade, the steepness of the grade of the site, we're proposing one entrance into the site off Proprietors Drive. It's about 150 feet from the intersection of Commerce Way and Proprietors. As for one-way traffic, will go in and loop around to the entrance to the facility. There's 49 parking spots that are configured around that layout. There's basically a center aisle walkway which will allow people, the way that the site will work is there'll be one-way traffic in and out of the facility. The parents of the students will drop off each of the children, will park in a spot, walk their children to the entrance, drop them off, and then then get back in their car and exit out the facility. That general procedure will happen over about a 2-hour period of time.
6 to 10.
6 to 10.
6:30 to 10, over a 4-hour period.
Over a 4-hour period. So there's that period of time when parents are allowed to come in, drop off, and exit the facility. Again, this type of number of spaces was designed based on use at another property in Plymouth and other facilities, not in Mass, but the exact same facility. The building itself was designed based on the required square footage per student, number of student, faculty. It was all based on, similar use and experience.
Required Massachusetts size for each student.
So we were able to, and again, the one entrance was somewhat limited by the topography of the site. We originally tried to have two entrances on an entrance and an exit on Proprietors Drive, but the slope of the site would just not allow for it. It's too steep down to the back, and you'd have over a 10% slope on the parking lot by the time you try to get out to the second entrance. So we've made provisions to take care of all of the stormwater. We've provided a rain garden up on the southeastern corner of the site near Commerce and Proprietors Way, and then there'll be another rain garden on the northerly portion of the site, and then there'll be an additional subsurface infiltration beyond that. All of these components were designed in accordance with the Mass DEP stormwater management standards, and we're able to handle all the way up to the 100-year design storm and make sure that it's mitigated and that there's no adverse effects or effects over and above what exists now. The septic for the site we're putting underneath the parking area, and again, this is kind of a big hill of sand. It's a really beautiful material for septic disposal, and we're proposing a septic system underneath the parking area of the facility. And as you can see, kind of around the perimeter of the site, because it is so steeply graded, there's a 1-to-1 slope there, where 1-to-1 slope there and a 1-to-1 slope there. We've talked to the abutter and also the owner of this property, current owner of this property, about allowing us to grade a little bit onto their property, and they will allow us. There's going to be some review, but they're going to allow us to do some minor grading so it's not as severe a slope from one site to the other. And we've proposed landscaping around the perimeter of the site. It is the industrial zone, but along Commerce Way, we're proposing some plantings and trees, and then along Proprietors Drive, we're proposing same bushes and trees along the sidelines of the roadway. The rain garden will be vegetated, and then there's some internal vegetation, decorative plantings along the building and the internal parking islands. Is the kind of the colored areas on the site are the outdoor play areas for the children. They're kind of limited by age group, and each area kind of highlighted in the yellow, blue, and green. There is a different play area for each of the age groups. And that's pretty.
We do have some building elevations. We made 6 copies if you're interested in seeing what the building looks like. Is that part of your concern? I don't know if we sent them in or
Yeah,
we have copies here.
They did get some.
Oh,
in,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've been sent in. But as you can see from the building elevations, it's a beautiful building. There's lots of detail. It's certainly fitting with the area, and it's clapboard siding and
Very
roof
nice
shingles.
look.
Yeah.
You know, some masonry accent, large windows, indoor gymnasium space. There's floor plans here if you're interested in what goes on inside. It's a formulaic building, meaning the applicant has done 15 of these in Ohio before she moved to Massachusetts, and she's now done the school in Plymouth. It's been for a year now, operating very successfully with a long waiting list. And similarly, she has smaller facilities on Cape Cod and intends to do one of these in each town along Route 3 between here and the south side of the city. And her formula is very, I guess, similar to the larger national chains, except much more personal. And so her waiting lists are very large. So the facility has a great need. There are other facilities in the area, but this one she has a track record and comfort that this will be full very quickly. And of course, the goal of it is convenience for parents. That's how this all works. And so the long period of time in the morning for drop-off over a period of 3.5 to 4 hours, the parents are pretty much, they're goal-oriented to find the time that works for them and be able to carefully drop the child off by hand walking them across the parking lot into the front of the building. They're required to be brought in by the parents, and similarly on the pickup, the parents pick up the child and hand walk them out, or in the case of infants, carry them out, because there's infants here as well. So you can see the building is right up against the setbacks, east and west, pretty much against the setback to the south. And I commend Bob for the ability to get this done on this property, because it is safe, done properly with proper flat grading where the play areas have to be in the flat. As you exit the building, there's handicapped accessibility requirements. The same thing is true in the afternoon. Again, pickup is all at parent convenience as early as 2:30 in the afternoon to 6 at night. So everything is very planned by the parents and the staff. So it's focused on convenience. So a question came up earlier that I was just made aware of by an abutter who may speak with you about queuing and traffic. And I just was on the phone with the owner because I wanted to have a rebuttal from her. And the rebuttal was that we've never had a queue. Again, for what it's worth, this objection may come to you, and you certainly should discuss it and embrace it, but I want to have you know that that's not the track record here of this particular facility. It's not a facility where there's parents coming for large events. This is a one-by-one parent-child drop-off pickup. So happy to answer any questions. The facility's got a cafeteria in it, serves all ages, library, gymnasium, indoors and outdoors. It's a high-quality building.
Well,
If you
we're
want to
gonna
see
need-
it, there's one in Plymouth.
Yeah, we're gonna need peer review at the expense of the applicant anyway, so tonight's really just to hear what you have to, and we can take some questions from the board or the audience, and we
Happy
have a
to.
submittal from the planner. Andrew, do you have the? Those are his questions, but we can get you a copy of that as well.
When did that come out?
This just today.
Oh, I see.
believe, Yeah.
No, I missed it, I'm sorry. Number of students you're gonna have there?
120 at maximum.
20, and the number of staff?
25.
And you wouldn't happen to have the address of the location you have in Plymouth, do you?
No, not off the top of my head. Happy to Google it.
What's the name of the
It's called
school?
Starboard Academy. You
Oh,
can
same
you can-
name.
You can Google it.
Is this like a Bright Horizons business?
Similar,
plan?
yeah. Well, I'll say in fairness to this lady, this is going to be a quality program, and not all of those are, but this is a quality.
It's the same idea, it's just like a franchise.
Very high-quality building, all glass inside, high-tech, high monitoring for the
But the one in
parents.
Plymouth is a Starboard Academy.
Starboard Academy. It would be in the area right near Commerce, it's in Commerce, near the Commerce Park.
Right
Commerce,
behind Chick-fil-A.
But right behind
Oh,
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, of course.
Yeah. It's in the industrial park there and right next to medical buildings.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Andrew brought it up here.
There it is. So you can see the quality of the building. I mean, first-class materials. And so there's nothing here that's less than would be desirable.
Well, if you have an existing location, any of the abutters that have concerns, they can go down and see what the
Absolutely,
actual
yeah. Welcome to
operation's
do
all
so.
about.
Yep,
Go down there at 6:30 in the morning, sit there and look at it and see what goes on.
absolutely.
Is the Plymouth facility the mirror image of what you're proposing in Marshfield? Same number of students, same number of staff?
Yes. And plenty of parents now. You look on their website, you'll see all the recommendations. Plenty of people to talk to if you're wondering about the quality of the program.
I am not.
Well, if you were.
I'm only concerned about the traffic.
Oh, I see.
But that's why we'll have peer review, and he'll check all that over for us. And then
Well,
we,
quality facility is important too, so,
I hope so.
yeah, absolutely.
Timing's important, so I'm sorry to hear about the peer reviews. Happy to have it. If you need it, you need it, but
no, yeah, we
timing
need
is
it.
critical because of the,
And we just had a timing critical, so you can.
no, I get it. It's the reason I
You can
mentioned
get
is
to
trying to
you
get
can
into.
get together with him and see how fast you can get it done.
Is that someone you know?
Probably who.
Ed Pesci,
Oh, I know Ed for
Yeah.
25 years.
yeah,
I'm sure he'll do it as quick as he can.
I hope so. So do we have anything from the audience that you guys would like to add? What's that?
DPW comments.
Oh, yeah, Andrew put up those, and we have some DPW comments as well. All right. And so did the audience have anything to ask, or? No? Oh, all right. No, thank you. No. Go ahead, name and address.
Yep, Kathy Gasper, 17 Snowy Owl. My big concern is them putting the driveway on proprietors. You know that I have presented to you pictures of the Boys and Girls Club and what a horror story they take up that whole lane. You can't get up and down that street. As much as they say they're stretching out their pickup drop-off, there's still that many more cars. I had asked the gentleman when we came in this evening who had drawn up the layout if it could be switched to Commerce. Because I felt that Commerce was going to be more in line with the other school up there, and they wouldn't have residents coming and going from their homes to deal with all of the traffic coming up and down.
Okay, so if you want, Kathy, you can just resubmit those pictures so we can get these over to
I
these
think,
guys.
Nancy, you have those. I can just save them over from the other.
All right, and we'll send them over to the applicant.
That is myself personally, I have no problem. They have probably a very fine, but it's where they're locating their driveway to come in and out.
Who else?
Maureen O'Malley, 12 Old Woodward Lane. I had asked Bob when we saw the initial picture, if they are putting it on proprietors, make that the entrance and have the exit come out onto Commerce. That way you won't have the backup on proprietors if they're all coming in. We start from down on 139. When you come up proprietors, you have people coming out of Roach Brothers. There's not a stop sign. They make the assumption that if you're there, you're going into Roach Brothers. So they're cutting in front of you. You have Village Way. The people there think, oh, you must be taking a right to go in here. They're coming out. You then come down to the dentist entrance and Miragaza. They're coming out. You then have the people that have pulled into the rock parking lot there, which is going to house, the dog park, there are people that are already parking there and taking their dogs for walks. They're coming out, and then you hit the Boys and Girls Club. And they assume you're going in to pick somebody up. They're coming out. So you already have all of those stops and you're stuck. We have been in the boys and girls pickups and attempted to get around and, you know, almost been hit head on. So I think that if you can at least make that a one-way in and give us the out on Commerce, or you know, that would be more acceptable to the volume of traffic. Because if you're talking 120 students, he said, you know, they're dropping off, even if it's a 4-hour window, that's 120 cars, plus 50 parking spots, which 25 will be taken up by staff. So now you're down to 25 parking spots. So, you know, it's the math there, I don't think is going to work. So if you can change that exit to come out on Commerce, that is much more acceptable.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay, is anyone else?
Actually, is there something that we could do to like make it a right turn only, like out of that parking lot, like similar to how AutoZone is? Would that be sufficient instead of having people be able to take a left out of there?
Not gonna solve the problem because it's so close to the entry with the cars coming around.
So
Be
Bernie, what
worse.
do you have something for us? Yeah, go ahead.
Bernie Dupuy, 6 Weathervane Lane. Yeah, I see this as another, I'm not against the school at all. I'll make that up front. I think, you know, yeah, school and childcare needed. I'm very concerned about the traffic on that road on Proprietors Green. Proprietors Green is not, you know, they mentioned Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, if you've been down that area, there are 4 lanes down there. It's 2 on each side of the road. In fact, 3 on one side and 2 on the other. So we're talking about a 4-lane highway opposite that as opposed to a 1-lane highway here with traffic coming in volume-wise. We're talking 145 cars between 120 students, 25 workers there, 145 cars twice a day, 290 cars, again throwing through that same intersection by Roach Brothers. We have tremendous volume of traffic going through there already. Proprietors Green is not very wide. It's not like we're talking about a 3 or 4 lane highway where there's a left lane, a right lane, and a middle lane. Maureen mentioned, and I've been in a situation where with a Boys and Girls Club traffic backing up there, I'm coming down Proprietors Green to try to get out of there, and people with frustration are waiting in Proprietors Lane to try to get in the Boys and Girls Club to go out. They pull out into what is really the downstream lane, heading right at me. I had a truck heading right at me. It was like, I can't move, and we had to wait there until someone moved up in the parking spot, was able to pull off into the Boys and Girls Club, and he could pull into the thing. But it's a hazard now, you know, making this a entrance exit out of that same thing is gonna just add to it. I think Maureen, I'm not against it. Maybe an entry there, an exit on the Commerce, you'd have a better flow of traffic, and they could, once out on the Commerce, they could either choose to go back down that street or exit right and go down on Enterprise. It gives an option to them, but I think an entrance exit on that same area going to cause even more havoc than what is there already. So the traffic issue is a serious concern with the volume that's already there.
Dennis Kelleher, 19 Snowy Owl. Can I just walk up there?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Wave.
Thank you. I'll stand over this side. I just don't want to block anybody. All right, there's a couple of questions that we have. First of all, a whole bunch of senior housing residents across the street. I don't know if you've addressed how you're going to try and buffer that, because you're going to have lighting in the parking lot. That's going to be 24/7. You're going to have to protect the building. There'll be more lighting there as well. So we have a buffer, we have lighting issues. The traffic coming up Proprietors Drive, I mean, this weekend, because they had an event, I'm not sure if you're going to be open on Saturdays or Sundays. Not at all. Okay. Well, there were cars parked all along the street on Proprietors. And that happens during the week, because when people come to the Boys Club and after-school programs, Parents have to come up the street, they have to wait in the street, so all the way down to Route 139, many, many times, there are cars parked along there in line trying to come in to pick up, I don't know how many students are in the course of the day. So that's a traffic issue, it's also a safety issue. What we haven't also addressed is just down the street, across from this, is gonna be 200, maybe more units of residential housing apartments. That increases the traffic, the load on traffic as well. Plus on a school up the street for autistic children, just up the way, which has been totally denuded, if you've noticed. And I'm not sure, are you gonna denude that whole hill?
Most of the trees will be gone and then vegetated again, yeah.
Vegetated again with what?
It's a cliff, it's a cliff
I
now.
know exactly. You
Have to
live across
flatten
the
it,
street.
yeah, you gotta flatten it.
All right, so what we have is, we have people living all along here, that the rear of their homes and their decks, their quiet enjoyment, will be interfered with if the lighting and the buffering is not there.
Understood.
Okay, so you know
That'll be
that.
taken care of.
Okay. We were looking at how far back can this be set back this way?
That's it, right up against the
That's
line.
it, right up against the lot line. Okay, over here, is the problem, would it be a problem moving that further down this
Yeah,
way?
tried it everywhere, it's the only place.
Why is that?
Because it's right up
Because
against
of
3 lot
elevations?
lines. It's right up against 3 lot lines. Commerce Way, proprietors, and the other
Okay.
side. Right up against it.
Okay, so how do we address this, the entryway?
Well, do you want me to debate?
Well, no,
I'm not
you're,
asking a debate.
no, you're giving him information, then they're gonna go with our peer
Right.
review and come back.
So
You're
what we're
providing
asking
questions.
As a neighborhood, and I think everyone is here for that, is how are you going to address the amount of traffic, and then to be able to buffer between you and us, because we were notified as butters this was going to happen.
Of course.
So we'd like to know how you're going to address that. I'm not asking to debate. So in other words, we have a direct line of sight down into your driveway, which is, we have to try and figure out how do we manage that, because it just doesn't seem to fit in as a plan if you were to take residents up against an industrial area.
It is zoned industrial.
Huh? I know it is, yes. We're not
So
against
when you
the
bought the
school.
house, it was zoned industrial.
But we
too.
have to try and work together to try and get that done. And I guess the other part of it too is when we look at things like this, for me, as an owner of property and the other people, I'm on the board there as well as Dennis and Kathy Gasper and Jen. We're all here before people on the board. So we're looking to try and work with you to be able to mitigate some of the issues that we have with it.
Appreciate it, Dennis.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Bernie, again?
Could I, if you don't mind, I'd like to go up.
We don't
as well.
want you standing up.
Thank you.
You said you couldn't move it further back. Is it possible to shift it over this way so that when your driveway comes in, traffic goes around and exit out that way? If the building is shifted in that direction, I would think you then would be able to exit in that area and go out.
These are just questions you guys can go back and
You're just,
Right,
Take
if
your
you've seen
time.
the plan, it's right up against the
Yeah,
setback.
there's
I
a dotted
understand.
line there that's right above the building. It's
That's the
pretty much
setback.
very close to the setback. Yeah.
I'm not so sure where you're pointing at.
Right there.
Right
Right
there,
there.
right,
That dotted
right,
line right
right,
there.
a little
There
south,
you go.
yeah, a little,
There you go.
Yeah.
yep,
That's
right
the
above that.
furthest we can go.
Yep.
That's the furthest you can go that way?
Yeah.
How much of a distance is there between them?
Maybe a foot. I'd have to look at one of the other. Yeah, it's
What is it saying? These 3 lot
2.1
lines are pretty much maxed out right there.
Possible, how much room is there on this side too?
0. See, the
Again,
line is right there. See the dotted line?
1.9 feet. 1.9 feet.
No? Could you shave off some of the building here and make it work? I don't know.
All right.
Again, we're trying to look for solutions that make it work for you, but also make it work for the
Sure,
community.
yeah.
So do we have anything else?
Sure. Leanne Wade, 31 Snowy Owl. Just a question. Commerce Way is a long street. It's all industrial from our understanding. Are there any other parcels or lots that could be considered, such as the other side of the current Madera site? I just was curious because it seems like there's a lot of land at the other end of that road. And there's not as much traffic. It's pretty dead, as a matter of fact.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Walt Fraser, 15 Snowy Owl Lane. It seems like you've maximized the size of the parking in the building to that specific piece of land. And it just seems, from our point of view, that it's not quite working. Is there a way to shrink the building? Maybe instead of 120 students and so many staff, you have 80 students and a few less staff. Does that work for you? And it still would fit into that spot. Or, as she just said, move it down the road if you could.
Thank
Well,
you
there's
for
a
your
lot more
question.
space.
Anyone else? Anyone from the audience online? All right, thank you. So, what?
One more question. Walt Fraser, 15 Snowy Owl Lane. Do you have data on the other sites as to, in the morning especially, but in the afternoon as well, 6 to 10, what percentage of students comes in at 6, 7, 8, 9?
So that's why when we have our peer review, that will all be done from our
Good,
peer
thank you.
review.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So, any other?
Brian, if I could just, one thing
Go
just
right
to
ahead.
add to Dennis is the light,
Where do you live?
Dennis Shatnoff, I'm sorry, Snowy Owl.
Yeah.
I think that this is a great business coming up there and facility. Looks like you've done a good job on the design, so yeah, we just want to work with you. I think the other thing with the light, mitigation of the light would be the noise mitigation, because you do have a lot of seniors right along there.
Right.
And 6:30 in the morning.
Ed will look into all those
Yeah,
things.
that would be great. That would be great.
This is Monday through Friday,
Old
correct?
Chook.
No major holidays?
Yeah.
In terms of light, their application says all lights will be mounted on poles that are 12 feet in height or lower. All lights will be shielded from casting light upward. There will be no light spill over onto adjacent properties. So that's in their application.
Yep.
They also submitted a landscape and lighting plan that will be, obviously be subject to the peer review.
Yeah, we haven't seen that. I'm sorry.
No, we haven't either, so. Well, we have, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Right,
Go ahead.
Again, Dennis Shatnoff, Snowy Owl. Is there any chance to leave some of the, question, I guess?
So that's,
Yeah.
you asked the questions and they're gonna come back with
Sorry.
their
If there's any
answers.
way to leave some of the tree frontage along Proprietors as a possibility.
So,
Walt Fraser, 15 Snowy Owl Lane. I don't know if anyone's aware, but if there's only 1.6 feet between the part of the property on the lower side of the drawing and the school that's going in there, and that 1.6 feet, if you take a look down there tomorrow morning, you'll see a few hundred stumps that it looks like they're preparing to bury on the lot line there, on the
Okay.
property line. They've got them all lined up, gonna dump them in a trench and bury them. Years from now, it's gonna be a sinkhole there.
I don't think they're gonna do that, but.
Oh, but they could. Let's take a look at that.
It's illegal,
Someone should
so
check.
you're not allowed to bury stumps, so. All right, so,
You mean as they did with Modera?
right,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna continue the meeting. We'll get in touch with Ed, you know Ed, you can call him and see when he can start the review, okay? Nancy, should we try the 11th of, is it 10/11?
Brian, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is there anybody else other than Ed Pesci that handles these?
He works, Ed's the guy, Ed's already done all the work up there, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have someone else start over. So, when is the next meeting we have?
I think the 27th might be too soon.
No, the 11th.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll shoot for October 11th, okay?
Thank you all.
Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion that we continue this meeting to October 11th, 6:30. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we have Thomas Burke.
Is that a holiday, the 11th?
Thank you very, very
No,
much.
10th
It may
is.
be. Is that a holiday?
I don't think so.
No, Columbus Day is the 10th. We meet on Tuesday, so.
Oh, okay.
Your new holiday. So do we have 2287 Thomas Burke? Okay, 2287 Thomas Burke The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 and 305-902C of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a new 8'7" by 14'10" deck on the front of the dwelling. Two 11-foot shed dormers on the left side of the dwelling and extend the right dormer by 2 feet to allow head height for new stair location on the property located at 15 Charlotte Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being parcel K12-11-08 and is located in the R3 zoning district.
Hi,
Go ahead.
everyone. My name is Brianne Dane. I'm with BF Architects of Plymouth, Massachusetts. With me here is Thomas Burke of 15 Charlotte Street. We are respectfully asking the board to grant us a special permit that would allow us to build that extending deck on the second floor as well as two 11-foot shed dormers on the left side of the dwelling and extending the existing right dormer on the right side by 2 feet, just for headroom that would allow access to the attic. All of this would be done without exceeding the existing footprint of the building.
Okay. So do we have any questions? Andrew, do you have anything other than what you provided us?
No, I've worked with the architect on this to make sure that the proposal meets the requirements of the bylaw for the 2.5 stories. That's got it.
Okay.
It is a substantial improvement, but the home is already elevated to where it needs to be.
Anything from the board?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Nothing. Agree. Anything from the audience?
He's on our side.
Anyone from the online people? Anything? Bueller? All right. Seeing that there's none, so we have a special permit. Andrew, can you, well, I guess I don't have to do that till we already close it, right? And then I'll put it in that. So I'm gonna make a motion that we close 2287 Thomas Burke, 15 Charlotte Street. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
And,
Grover.
thank you, Grover. And do we all agree with 1 to 10 up there for our decision? We feel it.
I do agree.
Well,
Yes.
I agree.
I agree. Steve?
Yeah.
Grover?
Agreed.
So I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions. Andrew, they'll need the building permit, as-built, and site plan.
No, they don't need an as-built. They're not changing anything.
They're not changing any of the footprint, okay.
Yeah, we just need a building permit and then it'll be a certificate of occupancy at the end.
Okay. And to alter, extend a non-conforming residential structure based on finding that the applicant has demonstrated that she meets all the requirements in the section of 10.12 of the bylaws. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grover.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm on Shark Tank right now.
I wish.
It's killing me.
Which one's Mr. Wonderful?
This guy here. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Don't blow up his head.
Come on, he won't make it out of the room.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
Good night.
So now we have SQ Realty Trust. They're not here? We just have to regroup to do you. All right, 2289 SQ Realty Trust. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to modify a special permit 1913 due to an architectural design change. The existing rear cantilever deck in the 3rd floor project's approximately 1.5 feet further into the rear setback. compared to the allowed overhang previously granted with special permit 1913 on the property located at 24 Oregon Street, which is further identified in the assessors maps as being on parcel 1006-07 and is located in the R3 zoning district. Go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Hazel Dani, I'm a registered civil engineer here with the owner SQ Realty Trust, Mr. Stephen Cuevas Atene. Also, we have a builder, Mr. James Trangizi with True North Construction. And we also have Mr. Joe Fournier from JFF Design, the architect. And we're here before you at the request of the building commissioner, Mr. Andrew Stewart, to modify previously granted special permit because of an additional projection into the rear setback that was identified during the final inspection as part of the request for a certificate of occupancy. That projection is associated with the third floor cantilever balcony, and the projection is approximately 16-inch beyond what was approved through the special permit 19-13, and also it was not identified through the building permit process. So we're here before you asking for a modification to the special permit to document that projection into the rear setback.
Okay. Andrew, do you have anything other than what you've given us, or anything you'd like to?
No, that's it.
Okay. Anything from the board?
Just be clear so that everybody knows it's pretty much already in existence. It's
Yes,
done.
this is built.
Nope.
So nothing from the board? Nothing from the audience?
Hello, this is Daniel McDonough. I am in a butter, 28 Oregon Road. When I look out the window, I really like seeing exactly where that deck is, so I really hope that this is approved. It's perfect just the way it is. Every day I wake up, I have my coffee, I look out, I can't get enough.
All right, thank you, Dan. All right, so I make a motion that we close $22.89 SQ Realty Trust, 24 Oregon Road. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeny, aye.
All right, so I'd make a motion that we approve 24 Oregon Road.
Second.
No, sorry, do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Corwin, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Grover? He's asleep. Only got 5. What's that? I don't think, it's already built. Well, I guess it has built that we already have and whatever, I guess. Oh.
I'm recused, Brian.
Oh, okay, sorry, Grover. All right, so that's it. Now, we're gonna take a 5-minute break so we can adjust.
I have a quick question, just regarding to this project. Is there any other comments or questions that we would need to respond to get the certificate of occupancy?
No, you have to deal with the building inspector. We've given you the permission.
I'll say that for that structure and this project, no, that this was the last thing for making that structure compliant. And after this decision, there should be no problem with getting a certificate of occupancy. During the course of the Conservation Commission meeting last week, it was identified that there is a floodplain violation on the property, but that's something I have to take up with the property owner specifically, and that's separate from the certificate of occupancy for this structure.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. Do I have a second?
Very much for your time.
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Bowen, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Go Ramsey, aye.
All right, so Nancy, are you gonna go downstairs and run the computer? How are we gonna do it?
Back up
For the last one? Well, or, yeah, and Andrew can, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's two other things.
All right, so I'm gonna recommend that we reopen the hearing. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Bowen, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
JJ?
Go Ramsey, aye.
All right, we have 2284 James Marathis, TAG Family Trust. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 5-foot by 16-foot 4 covered bridge between the dwelling and existing garage, and a variance according with 305-1011 for relief from 305-1602 table dimensional density regulations, if necessary, on the property located at 50 Ocean Street, which is further identified in the assessor's maps as being parcel N06-07-08, and is located in the R3 zoning district.
Good evening.
Name and address.
James Marathis, 50 Ocean Street.
Yep.
So I bought the house several years ago, and we raised the house because of continued loss. So in elevating the house, previously, the garage was connected to the house. If you go to the photographs of the existing conditions when I bought the house, you'll see here that there is a breezeway that connects the garage to the house.
Yeah, I know, we visited the site.
Okay.
Well, back there.
In order for me to take the house down, it was determined that I would need to remove the breezeway. And at the time, I had expressed some concern over removing it, and I wanted to keep it in the back of the garage. And at the time, the building inspector had told me that after I raised the house, if I came back in, I could reconnect it to the garage. At the same time, the garage has kind of a really strange slope to it. It's kind of got like a salt box look to it. One side of the garage roof is low, the other side is high. And what I'm proposing to do is make the roof lines the same on the garage as the house, and then connect it back to the house. There already is a second floor on the garage. There's a set of stairs in the garage that goes upstairs, and there's a room over the garage. What this would do is change the head height in that room, as well as connect it. Right now, the house is like 13 feet in the air. If you go out there on a windy day, or go out there on a storm or rain, or even the wind coming off the ocean, you can barely get in the door of the house on most rains and most weather situations up there. It's pretty brutal.
Can I bother you to see the original photos of the house? when you
Sure.
bought it?
I gave you all copies there. It should be right on your...
Oh, there we go.
It's in there.
This is the breezeway here. This is where the house was connected.
That's when you originally bought it. This is what you
This
originally
is
purchased.
coming out of the house. There was a garage, a breezeway here, and then it went into the garage. That was actually a gym. There was a fitness area in there, inside that room at the
There it is
time.
right there, close porch.
Yep. But in the project of elevating it, they told me that I would have to take that down. So, took it down, and then the idea was to come back in and seek permission to rebuild it, only to connect it and to be out of the flood zone. So by connecting it, we're gonna stay out of the flood zone. Believe it or not, when I raised my house, the flood maps were 3 feet higher, and after I raised the house, they redid the flood maps, and they lowered the flood area by 3 feet. So my house is actually 3 feet higher than it needs to be.
You're up there.
Don't worry, it'll catch up.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
We had to do
it's
all that.
already catching up. But
And we did the math with your roof line, I remember that.
yeah, I'm already
Yeah.
higher than I need to be.
No, but because of all those things, you had to factor in.
Right, I had to
remember-
factor in that flood map
Right,
at
and
that
then-
time.
And then the dormer, I remember the whole thing.
But then they changed the whole thing, and now I could have been 3 feet lower. But in hindsight, like you said, it's probably better that I'm as high as I am.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's a tough area.
Yeah. So Nancy, could you bring up what Greg board's comments are. I don't know if you can get, there we go. Greg had said that this would, they're against it because they feel that FEMA had, I can read it if you want. The planning department is not in favor of the requested variance. The garage was originally detached from the house as part of a FEMA elevation grant. Plan shows a second story on the garage now with a room or rooms. By connecting the main house to the rooms above the garage, you would need to make the garage structure fully compliant with the FEMA flood regulations for the VE zone. FEMA should be contacted to review the proposal to ensure this does not put the town into a non-compliance issue with FEMA and jeopardize the town's CRS flood insurance discount.
Yeah, I intend to make the garage compliant. I mean, it would need flood vents. That's what it needs to be compliant. The garage already exists, and the room over the garage already exists. And they were connected prior to me raising the house, so I don't understand why he would say that it needs to be compliant. We're gonna make it compliant. It's not compliant now. There's no flood vents in the garage.
Okay.
So the idea would be to install the flood vents to then make the garage compliant. And the room over the garage is already there.
All right.
It would be connecting it to the house, and the structure connecting it to the house is not gonna, it's out of the flood zone.
So we didn't, I don't know if we didn't get to them on time or not, but we didn't really get an answer from Neil and Bob Vogel, so.
Brian,
Yep,
they did respond,
I know they responded, but they said it had to be compliant, but they didn't
but
explain.
it just said that they would, it would need to follow, state building codes, which also includes,
Right.
flood zone requirements.
And I've built homes before in FEMA flood zones, and it would require me to put the flood vents in the garage, which currently are not there.
So Tony, as long as we put in that he has to meet those requirements, would we be, that doesn't affect our CRS flood insurance, would that work?
Generally, I agree with what you're getting at. I think you need a more specific
We need some,
condition to tell him exactly what he needs to do, but generally, yes.
okay. So we don't have anyone that can give us that condition. We'd have to get it from Bob and, what's his
Can we
name?
do applicable conditions?
Yeah.
Brian, I'm unclear, why is a variance needed?
See, he only put in for it if he needs it.
I put it in just in case I needed it, because
Because I don't think, you don't meet the standard for the granting of a variance. You're
You
not
don't,
even
and I don't
close.
believe you need one.
Okay.
yeah, I don't have any setback. I'm not expanding beyond the
Staying
setbacks
with,
of what's
all
already
within the
there.
footprint. He's wholly within the footprint.
And I'm out of the flood zone, so.
So
Would it be a
so it's
density
just a
issue?
special permit?
He has both. He applied for both.
I filled out both applications
So
in
we would
case
have,
I
the
needed it.
variance would become moot, and then we would approve the special.
Yeah, he's just covering his base. If he doesn't need the variance, he can
Okay.
withdraw.
A lot of people do it.
Okay.
But, so,
I'm not doing any on-the-ground construction.
I know,
All of
but
this
I
construction
just think,
is,
because of Greg and what Tony's saying,
yeah.
we could move this to the 27th and have Vogel write up what we need to put in the decision.
Well, if we made the decision contingent upon being
I know, we
FEMA
don't have the
compliant,
language.
being FEMA compliant
Yeah.
and meeting the Mass State Building Code, I think
Well, of course, it's got to meet building code. The question is, what is FEMA compliant? What
Yeah,
does
what
that
is
look
it?
like? We don't know what it looks like.
So,
it's flood vents. It's the same person,
I understand what
several
you're saying.
meetings.
But
Well,
we-
I think you just had a hearing several meetings before me, and he was constructing in a flood zone and
I know, but
flood
we don't,
vents.
You're
we don't
not-
have anyone to ask.
Yeah, you're
I
not, you
understand.
don't have a stamp.
It's only a week, it's the 27th.
Okay,
We just get it, so we just extend, continue your meeting till the 9/27.
Okay.
And we'll get that language together, and then we'll answer it. But
Okay.
that, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know if the rest of you are.
I'm not.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'd like to see Bob put the language appropriately.
Just give it, he didn't, he gave us an answer, but he was very vague.
okay.
All right? So I'll make a motion that we continue 2284 James Marathis, TAG Family Trust, 50 Ocean Street to 9/27. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Mark Hall and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Grover? Thank you.
Am I gonna be last on the agenda on the 27th? Because if I
That's
am,
what I
I
was
just
gonna say.
assume
Can we
come at
make
the
him
end of the
first
meeting.
next time?
Either that or,
Well, we have to change everything around, so, yeah, we can, what's that? Nancy?
Oh, I'm good.
Oh, you can come up now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah, we could try and get you in first.
okay.
We had too many things on tonight, you know?
No, I understand. I get the whole conflict thing. I understand the whole thing. I just don't want to be penalized because of the conflict that I already have with somebody else.
So we'll put you on second to last again, except for we'll have a couple of recesses in between. How's that?
That's great. I appreciate that.
We'll try and we'll get you up to front.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You guys have a nice day. Good seeing you. Take care.
All right, so now we'll wait for Nancy. All the continued hearings are all set.
29.
They're all on to the 27th.
The cell tower folks, has anybody heard from them?
No. We just have one more thing. I don't see it on her agenda, but it's on Bob's or Andrew's, one of them. So this is just an add-on, right? This is, I don't see it on my agenda.
Other business?
Oh,
In the back.
Oh, 405.
1929.
All right, you know what, I was missing page 505. Here it is.
Need a pen?
I got it, yeah. All right, so we have, is it 1929? Is that what I'm doing? 205 Bay Ave?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. 1929, Manuel and Edward Barrett. The petitioners are requesting a determination that the modification of the original plan is a non-material change and are also asking for approval of the revised plan, property located at 205 Bay Avenue. Okay.
Hello again. I'm Rick Savant.
How's it going, Rick?
It's going good. So, yes, previous approval, house was, if you can see on the plan, that's the previous
This is
plan.
the old one.
Yep, that's the old one. On the new one, I showed the previous footprint and the new footprint, but essentially,
Okay, right.
we got a new homeowner who purchased the property, along with the permits, I guess, and they wanted to change the house, and the change they're making is to make it smaller. The blue outline is the previously approved footprint, 997 square feet, and the new house, which is 6 feet narrower, essentially. It's the same front to back, street to the rear, but it is narrower by 6 feet. It was a 26-foot house before, and now it's 20. So it's still up on piles. We've been through conservation. That's essentially what what the change is, and hoping that we could just address it this way.
Okay. I mean, everything's smaller than it was before, so
Yep.
I don't see any problem with it.
Yep. No, pretty straightforward to me.
Essentially, this is what should have happened with 24 Oregon before the certified as-built.
Oh, okay.
We're looking for a material change modification of the special permit. In this case, they're decreasing it, but
So this is just a minor modification?
it's a minor modification. They're seeking just a modification of the existing special permit approval to allow for this material change to the project. The material change will make it more conforming and will relieve them of some building code requirements for fire resistant.
All right, good. I'll be adopting what Andrew said. All right, so I make a motion to close 1929 Manuela and Edward Barrett, 205 Bay Avenue. Do I have a second?
Larry
Mark Hall,
Keane.
second.
Go ahead. All in
Keane,
favor?
second.
Aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Marco and I.
Steve?
Or Ramsey, aye.
And now I'll make a motion, Andrew, to adopt your language that you
Just to accept the minor modification to special permit 19-29.
Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Marco and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Grover,
Or Ramsey, aye. Or Ramsey, aye.
is that it?
Can't take it seriously. Can't take that for 2.5 hours. We should have thrown a few more cases.
Yeah, I know.
I know, you should have.
Still early.
See if there's anyone out in the hall.
All right, motion to adjourn, second.
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Marco and I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.